Tasbih di hari raya, puji pada Yang Esa.
Rasa nikmat bersama ayah bunda, sanak saudara.
Bergema Aidil Fitri, sedih pilu di hati. Mohon pada Ilahi bahagia kekal abadi.
Selamat Hari Raya, bersalam-salaman kita semua. Selamat Hari Raya, maaf saya batin kita bersama. Selamat Hari Raya, bersalam-salaman kita semua. Selamat Hari Raya, maaf saya batin kita bersama. Selamat Hari Raya, bersalam-salaman kita semua.
MC bulan ini, okey. Bulan ini, pada bulan puasa ni tak ada apa-apa perubahan. Dijangkakan fokus akan mengekalkan ataupun suku bunga akan dikekalkan sebanyak 5.50%, okey, 5.50%. So dikekalkanlah kemungkinan dalam bulan 6, bulan 5 macam tu, okey, dijangkakan ada perubahan dalam suku bunga lah. Tetapi bila mana dikekalkan selalunya bila kekal federal fund rate ataupun interest rate 5 dikekalkan 5.50%, selalunya apa yang berlaku pada indeks dolar. Okey, apa yang berlaku pada indeks dolar selalunya akan pacak lah, akan strong. So bila mana kalau indeks dolar strong, kita akan mencari peluang sell untuk gold. Okey, Assalamualaikum. Cantik baju Man. Macam tu lah. Ini untuk siapa yang join kita punya kopi trade raya, insyaAllah minggu depan saya start post. Sekejap saya matikan dulu. Minggu depan saya start post untuk baju ni lah, gold trader. English please. Sorry bro, my English too bad. But I can understand when you write in the comment. Okay, welcome. 130 orang. Sekejap ya. Hello, buy or sell. Normally I target for sell gold. For index dollar, we target go up lah, go up because interest rate still not not change, still 5.5%. Strong sell. Dia tak ada strong sell. So kalau kita tengok strong sell tu tak sebab tak ada perubahan interest rate lah. Bila interest rate ada perubahan, baru kita akan mencari sell. Okay. Kejap lagi saya akan share dalam channel lah. Siapa yang belum masuk dalam channel, boleh tekan channel. Saya akan tunjukkan live chat. Okay, live chat. Interest rate still not stable. Yes. So okay, 140 50 orang, 40 orang. Okay, welcome back. Selamat bersahur. Okay, kalau Sabah Sarawak ni dah ready, dah masak-masak. Okay, biasanya mak saya dah ready dah, bangun jam 2 macam ni masak kan. Sabah Sarawak. So untuk kita ni, kita live trade santai saja. Okay, kita live trade santai saja. Kita nunggu, ada masa lebih kurang 20 minit, 18 minit lagi macam tu. So interest rate influence very volatile, yes. But we can waiting lah after news. Normally spike biasanya spike atas bawah lah. Okay, biasanya spike. Sorry my English too bad. Ini baju kita untuk bulan puasa ni. Siapa yang join kita punya duit raya, kempen duit raya, kita akan bagi percuma bernilai harga RM88. Okay, ada belakang pun ada nama, nombor. So okay, pertanyaan saya, korang nak cari sell ke nak cari buy gold ni? Okay, korang nak cari sell buy ke ataupun sell gold ni? So boleh komen dulu. Kalau rasa nak buy, boleh komen buy. Okay, kalau rasa nak sell, korang boleh komen sell. Tadi sedap lah siapa scalping. Okay, sedap tadi siapa yang scalping. Baju masuk beg kuning man. Boleh ke masuk beg kuning? Nanti kita try macam mana. Sebab saya tak pandai nak set up beg kuning. Sebab saya ada 50 helai, saya limited. Okay, baju ni limited bang. Sekejap baju limited. Itu pun 10 saiz. Ini ada dalam plastik kan. Baru saya ambil tadi. Banyak. Adalah lebih kurang 60 helai, 100 tak sampai kot. Baju ni adalah limited. Baju limited. Nanti saya kalau ada balance saya masukkan beg kuning. Tapi actually itu free lah saya bagi untuk klien saya. Ini baju ni free. 80 apa tu? Dia belakang dia macam ni. Nampak tak? Ada nombor. So the king of gold. Nanti kita bagi. Okay, siapa yang klien kita bagi diskaun. Saya bagi free je bang, tak payah nak jual. Siapa yang pernah depo dengan saya, insyaAllah saya akan bagi kalau ada balance untuk kopi trade raya. So okay, korang bagi komen dulu geng. Korang bagi komen dulu apa target korang, nak sell ke nak buy. Boost komen dulu, buy ataupun sell untuk gold. Nak sell TP 2124. Yang lain tak tahu ke? Yang lain nak buy ke nak sell ni? Buy dulu, sell kemudian. Boleh jadi bang. Boleh jadi macam ni. Boleh jadi dia boleh spike dulu and then baru dia turun semula. Tapi saya target gold kalau siapa tengok, okay, kita buat analisis sikit lah. Okay, siapa tengok, siapa yang tak masuk channel lagi boleh klik link bio saya. Ada situ. Tapi tadi hampir breakout lah, tapi shadow saja, so tak solid breakout. Kalau dalam situasi H4 kita melihat sedikit ada perubahan trend, iaitu downtrend lah buat perubahan ni. Tapi ini correction saja ataupun pembetulan harga sahaja. Bila-bila masa saja dia boleh fly semula ke harga yang lebih tinggi lah, 995 lebih kurang. Okay, tapi tadi tak break lagi trend line lah. Kalau setakat shadow ni tak solid lagi breakout. Tapi kita tunggulah result jam 2 nanti. Kalau solid breakout pada time frame, pada trend line ataupun di harga strong high kita, okay, strong high kita pada harga 2162. Okey, 2163 di situ adalah menandakan gold akan kembali menaik. Okey, gold akan kembali meningkat. Kalau D1 masih lagi dalam strong lah. D1 masih dalam keadaan bullish. Cumanya di H4 ke bawah, okey, H4, H1 dan time frame lebih kecil, kita melihat ada sedikit perubahan trend, iaitu sikit-sikit dia terjun. Tapi untuk malam ni dikekalkan interest rate. Bila dikekalkan interest rate, selalunya apa yang berlaku pada market index dollar akan menguat, akan fly. Bila index dollar fly, kita akan mencari peluang sell gold. Kita akan instan lah. Untuk siapa-siapa yang baru join kita punya live, siapa-siapa yang baru join kita punya live, saya selalunya instant entry before news. Okay, instant entry before news. Tetapi bukan full margin. After news release, baru saya akan entry yang lebih besar. Okay, entry yang lebih besar. Itu saya punya strategik untuk saya entry ketika news lah. Saya takkan full margin sebelum news. Besar risiko sebab news sekarang tak sama macam dulu. Dulu senang bang. Okay, bila release news hijau ke merah ke, dia akan follow the news. Sekarang news selalunya berlaku terbalik. Kadang-kadang indeks dolar strong, sepatutnya gold terjun, tetapi dia terbalik pula. Dia macam tu selalunya. Ini yang berlaku 2 tahun 3 tahun sekarang ni lah, selalu berlaku. Okey, terutamanya bila news FM. Kita punya Apex abang. Bang, saya sakit pinggang ni bang. Saya baru pergi scan, saya kena ni lah tadi, kena scan tulang lari. Pisang juga kalau tulang lari ya. Saya tulang lari tadi. Mana tadi saya punya scan, nampak tak? Saya tak boleh duduk lama ni. Nampak tak? Tulang sebelah sini saya lari. Di sini dia lari. Sebelah bahu. Siapa-siapa yang ada mengenali ni kan, urutan-urutan kampung ke apa ke, bolehlah rekomen saya. Sakit duduk lama tak boleh ni. Ini bulan 2 bulan ni saya tukar-tukar seat dia terus. Tulang lari tak apa, bini lari bosku. Jangan tengok FB Maman, cakap pak, yes pasal slip pad, yes. Slip disc, bukan slip patch Dekat Johor ada. Inilah nak pergi Johor ni, ada orang recommend pergi Johor. Kata abal-abal Bang Maman. Okey, kita ada masa 12 minit lagi. Saya nak pergi Johor tapi saya tak larat nak drive. Memang teruk, tulang saya memang teruk. So saya terpaksa apa? Ni. Belah bawah ni. Nampak tak? Belah bawah ni. Saya terpaksa apa tu? Tak boleh duduk lama. Kita relax je. Try pergi ke Pucuk Muar dan pergi, alhamdulillah. Okey. Banyak juga rekomen Johor. Okey, nampak reaction market sekarang ni. Okey, tadi kita tengok di mana dia sebenarnya breakout pada time frame kecil tau. Breakout. Dia actually di time frame M30 dah breakout trend line 2156 tadi dah breakout. Okey, dah breakout, tetapi untuk solid kita tunggu nanti sama ada candle H4 berjaya, okey, berjaya menembusi solid candle ataupun pada harga 2160, insya-Allah gold akan fly. Kejap lagi kita akan entry 5 minit, okey, 5 minit ataupun 3 minit kita tengok price action semasa baru kita entry. Jangan entry sekarang. Okey, kalau entry sekarang bahaya. Saya slippers leher dan pinggang, alhamdulillah dah okey. Saya hari tu buat rawatan dah okey hampir sebulan. Hampir sebulan saya okey. Sekalinya jadi balik tadi memang keren teruk So saya menggunakan platform Valetax lah. Siapa-siapa lagi yang tak ada account di Valetax, bolehlah daftar. Kita ada bonus 30%, 50% dan 20%. Support margin dan floating. Malam ni saya gunakan modal $100. Nanti saya yang tengok chart boleh tengok di channel lah, live chart. Okay, sakit. Saya tak boleh duduk tenang sebab sakit pinggang. Okey, ada masa lebih kurang 9 minit lagi. So standby. Korang dah ready belum? Try komen ready ramai-ramai, geng. Okey, try komen ready ramai-ramai. Dah entry ke belum? Kalau korang nak tengok live entry, tengok di dalam channel. Dalam channel saya dah share. Okey. Tekan ramai-ramai, geng, ready. InsyaAllah semoga malam ini kita dimurahkan rezeki. Semoga profit. Kita faham di mana kalau kita trade dalam news ni memang possible untuk MC tu sangat besar. Okey, sangat besar. So jaga-jaga kalau nak full margin after news. Kalau takut-takut tu entry lah. Slow entry slow. Jangan full margin sangat. Takut kemurungan. Esok buy ke sell. Saya nak first entry saya before news. Bawah 5 minit saya nak sell dulu. Okey, saya nak sell dulu sebelum kita tengok FOMC nanti. Kita tengok FOMC. Fomc. Okey. Korang nak buy ke nak sell gold ni? Bila dah masuk sell 5 minit ke bawah. Maksudnya dalam bawah 3 minit. Tengok price harga sekarang ni macam mana. Sekarang saya tak entry lagi. At least bawah 5 minit tu kita entry. Hantar satu askar dulu. Kan kalau $100 hantarlah 1 sen kan. 1 sen 2 sen. Jangan terlalu tebal layer dan jangan terlalu besar. Jangan terlalu besar korang punya entry lot. 6062 sen. Sekarang dah masuk 669. Sabar sikit. Ada beberapa minit lagi ni. So kita biar dulu. Okey, biar dulu market bergerak, baru kita entry. Sebab saya nak entry before news ni. Okey, sebelum news release saya akan standby entry, satu entry. Bila release yang news, baru confident kita nak entry lagi besar. Sambil-sambil tu korang tap screen dulu. Okay, nanti bagi tahu bila dah masuk sell. Yes. Kalau nak lebih jelas, tengok je saya punya channel. Abang dah WhatsApp Maman ya bang. Saya nampak. Nanti saya balas. Abang text kita. Nanti saya tengok. Thank you abang komen. Saya nak pergi JB ni Johor ni tapi tak larat nak try. Okay. Sabar sikit. Siapa yang selalu join saya punya live tahulah style trading saya macam mana. So dia katakan kita kena first entry kita kena, kita tak loss. Biasanya sebelum news kita entry ni kita menggunakan sistem tak loss. Kita tak letak SL biasanya. Selalunya bila kita letak SL ni, dia ambil SL kita dulu. Bila dia ambil SL dulu baru dia pergi. Itu yang tak seronok. Macam NFT lepas. Dia ambil SL kita dulu baru dia pergi. Sifu adik putra kita masuk. Siapa yang berada di Indonesia bolehlah follow abang adik putra kita. Okey. Pak adik putra kita. Dia misalnya pegang untuk Valetax Indonesia. Assalamualaikum bang. Waalaikumsalam. Buy or sell? Now saya target nak sell dulu bang before news. Saya nak target saya entry sell dulu sebelum news release. Ada masa 5 minit lagi. So saya akan entry dalam 3 minit, 2 minit macam tu sebelum. Korang nak buy ke nak sell tu? Saya tak boleh duduk tenang lah bang, saya sakit pinggang. Buy USD ke buy gold. Macam saya nak buy gold ni, kecuali dia terus break 63 65, saya akan cari position counter buy lah after news. Untuk first news before news ni hantar abang DP sponsor hari tu apa? Abang ada FOMC hari tu apa? Saya tak faham. What's your TP? My TP normally my TP is 50 pip, 50 pip, 100 pip. Okay, 50, 100, 150. Hola. Ada yang ada entry belum? Kalau dah ada entry jaga. I am from Jamaica. Welcome bro. Dompet budget. Nama dompet budget tu Malaysia tu. Aduh sakit pinggang. Okay, bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Saya entry dulu, first entry. So untuk TP kita biasalah kita akan ambil 50 pip first TP. Sebab saya guna $100 je. Okey. Boleh pergi 51 pun boleh pergi ni, 50 pun boleh pergi. Rahsia. Alright. Abang dari Indonesia ke? Saya asal dari Indonesia bang. Membesar di Malaysia. Sekolah pun di Malaysia. Saya di Sulawesi. Boleh. Saya dah entry ya. Bismillah, saya dah entry sel. Siapa yang nak tengok live entry saya boleh masuk dalam channel. Dalam channel tu saya dah tunjukkan real entry. Tapi saya guna $100 je lah. Okay. Semua orang mampu untuk guna $100. SL saya dah terangkan. Untuk SL kita menggunakan sistem cut loss bang. Kita tak guna SL untuk before news. Agak bahaya sebab bila kita guna before news ni selalunya dia akan spike dulu ambil SL kita. Guna sistem cut loss. Okay, entry slow, jangan gelabah sebab kita akan buat live berapa jam 1 minit lagi. Selalunya kalau dikekalkan rate 5.50%, selalunya gold akan fly lah. Gold akan fly. Okay, bismillah. Okay, siapa yang tak claim bonus sila claim bonus support margin. Di Valetax ada bonus 20%, 30% dan 50% support margin dan floating. Okay, saya dah entry. Lambat sikit saya entry. Sell sekarang ke? Saya dah sell bang. Saya dah entry dah. Ke korang tak tengok? Dalam channel saya dah tunjuk tu. Dalam channel saya dah tunjuk. Saya entry 58. Nice t-shirt, yes. This one free gift for my client. Okay, TP boleh ambil 53. Paling TP tamat 50. Saya ada buy signal USD Kanada tadi untuk buy. Ada floating Okay, guna sistem cut loss kalau apa-apa berlaku. Okay, dia fly by. Okay, saya ambil cut loss dulu. Saya tak boleh tekan lah. Dia fly bang. Bahaya bye. Saya lari dulu bang. 1 sen je saya lari dulu. Apa news? Release. News tak release lagi bang. Bahaya. Baru dia bercakap. Kekal tapi dia ni ambil SL dulu. Okay, kita entry 1 sen. 1 sen saja bang. Saya entry 1 sen saja. Tadi saya dah cut tadi. Okay, 2 sen. Saya guna $100 je okay. Saya takut saya kena ban. Saya tunjuk macam ni je lah. Boleh ke? Fly terus ni. Saya dah 3 layer dah ni. 3 layer dah floating 11%. Nice lah, siapa yang buy? Selalunya berlaku dia tak pacak kali ni dia terjun dulu. Aduh, sakit sepinggang lah bang saya. Saya guna $100 je bang. $100 pada ni lah. Ikut ni lah cara entry lot yang bilis. Lot bilis saja, jangan terlalu ni. Lot besar. So kalau loss pun tak adalah banyak sangat. Nampak nak break ni bang, bahaya juga ni. Dah floating berapa tu? $20 tu, $100. Banyak tu. Kalau $50 larilah saya bang. Boleh buka puasa $50. market USD Kanada. Saya tengah sell lah bang. Saya tengah sell. Akan ni kalau syahid pun saya ni je. Kalau syahid pun saya rugi dalam $100 lah. Sampai label dah ni. Last 70 ah. Kalau 70 juga dia break, lari lah kita bang. Voting berapa banyak dah ni? 30%. Ui, jahat gol. Ada yang terciduk dah ke? Ada yang dah MC ke? Jangan MC dulu bang. Relax dulu. Market baru bergerak, baru nak tarik nafas. Dia berucap pun belum lagi. Masuk sell now ah. Saya tengah sell ni. Baru masuk tapi floating lah dari tadi. Tadi satu entry tu saya ambil cut loss $7. Berapa dolar tadi? Okey, dia ada dua momentum ah. Okey, pada jam 2 dan juga ketika dia berucap tu, at least dah 2.5 macam tu. Okey. Dia belum bercakap 2.5 ni. Kita tunggu dia Fomc press conference. Masa dia berucap. So sekarang ni layan dulu lah floating. Oh jahat. Masuk di 71 ni, 70. Okay, untuk newbies recommend jangan follow lah. Okay, untuk newbies sebab ini high impact news ni sangat volatile, sangat bahaya untuk kita entry. So just why kita standby akaun perang kita. Okay, apa-apa jadi kita just lost ini saja. Okay, ini saja, tak banyak. Man, Zoom tak buat. Saya buat di dalam channel bang. Boleh tengok dalam channel saya. Dalam channel tu boleh tengok live entry saya tengah floating. Banyak tak tu floating tu, sampai $50 bang. Kalau dia pergi 78 MC dah ni. Sebab akaun kecil kan. Akaun $100 ni dah floating $50 dah ni. Terciduk awal. Tu floating dia. Macam ni lah news ni. Okay, bila sepatutnya dia fly tapi dia tak fly, walaupun kekal interest rate tu kan. Indeks dolar terjun pula. 74 boleh sell 74 74 ada apa? Sekejap saya tengok balik. 74 74 ada base, ada block. Awal sangat saya entry tadi. 2.5 dia ada berucap lagi. Saya nak letak dulu. $50. Floating tu bang, sampai $70 dah saya floating. Sikit lagi saya MC $100 saya. Tak on lah malam ni. Tak on. Aduh, internet pula putus. Saya nak top up saya punya account $50. Okay, kalau trade news jangan guna modal yang besar geng. Kalau kita trade news jangan guna modal yang besar, santai-santai sudah. Siapa yang tanya saya tengah sell lah. Entry mana man? Saya tengah entry ni bang. Kalau nak entry sekarang cantik lah. Sebab ada dua tunggu conference lah. Dia berucap tu pun boleh jadi juga. Dia boleh spike lagi. So hati-hati. Ni tengah floating lah ni, negatif. Junam negatif 38 $27. Nampak tak? Account $100 je bang. So saya risikokan $100 je. Boleh jadi 400 pip. Itu 400 pip tu tunggu ada perubahan interest rate. Mungkin dalam bulan 5, bulan 6 macam tu. Sekarang ni masih kekal, interest rate masih kekal lagi. So ini menjadi zone kita, zone seterus kita untuk buy pada harga, sebab itu dah breakout trend line pada harga 659. So kalau dia terjun 60 kita ambil dulu. Ngam ambil order 2174, mantap kali bang. Macam saya awal saya entry. So layanlah floating, apa boleh buat. Lama juga dia berucap 2.5. So ada masa 20 minit lagi. Ada tak yang dah MC sini? Harap jangan ada yang MC lagi ya. Sebab kita masih menunggu 2.5 ni. Apa orang tua tu cakap, okay, sama ada ekonomi dia baik ke ataupun buruk nanti. Ada yang Sabah Sarawak dah cabut sell, mantap. Sell lagi ke mana? Saya tengah sell lagi ni bang. Sebab saya tengah floating ni, saya tak counter lagi. Patutnya tadi counter buy. Siapa nak follow silakan, siapa yang takut jangan ya. Siapa yang takut jangan sesekali nak entry. Kang salahkan saya pula bila loss. Dah ambil profit, menakutkan. Itulah menakutkan. Dia boleh je dia pergi 80 ni kalau momentum macam ni. Buy now. Kalau buy now cannot lah bro, sebab dah pucuk dah. Kalau dia turun half 50% ke, okay, 61.8% ke, okay sikit lah. Tapi kalau nak buy now sekarang agak risk juga. So saya hold saya punya set ni. Okay, entry dah ada apa semua, tawakal. Kita nak terjun lah bang. Buy sekarang kita hantar nyawa. Boleh bang, siapa nak buy boleh bang, tak ada masalah. Siapa nak buy boleh. Dua setengah time dia berucap dia akan spike lagi. Kali ni tak on lah kita punya ni. Kenapa saya tak boleh transfer? Saya nak daya lagi, tapi margin saya dah kurang lah 30%. Semoga junam lah 2.5. Amin. Siapa? Ada yang masih hold ke? Okay, siapa yang entry sekarang? Siapa yang entry sell sekarang? Saya recommend korang letak SL 80 lah. 80 boleh letak. Tinggal sebenarnya saya buy. Mantap. Siapa yang buy? Okay, ada salah? Buy ke sell ke tak ada salah. Sebab ini kita track ketika news. Apa-apa boleh jadi. Kita mampu predict saja. Kena lagi orang tua tu berucap nanti, lagilah. Mantap kali siapa yang buy. Confirm junam. Amin. Dia main-mainkan perasaan dulu. Sekejap lagi reject kan ni. Pun dah. Tak boleh tak tayang cat terus. Kalau tayang cat terus bahaya geng. Sarawak sudah sahur sifu itulah. Kalau saya di Sabah ni mak saya dah bangun dah jam 2 masak. Kalau saya di Tawau lah. Ada tak orang Sabah di sini? Siapa orang Sabah di sini? Saya dah start running profit dah. Saya punya goal hadir. Jadi Sabah, kalau di Tawau ni mak saya dah masak dah. Jam 3, jam 4 start makan. Saya sell 73 lah, mantap kali bang. KD hadir. Hadir man, mantap kali. Nak TP kat mana bang? Kalau nak TP 7 sekarang, tadi 73 kan. Ambil 73, 765 dah boleh ambil TP dah. Sementara menunggu conference kan, dia berucap. Nanti kita ambil second entry lagi. Kalau kami di KL ni, jam 5 baru makan 5.30. Okay, selamat bersahur lah siapa-siapa yang berada di Sabah dan Sarawak. Selamat bersahur. TP tamak ambil 55 cantik. Okay, TP tamak kalau dia turun lah, insyaAllah. Ada rezeki dah turun. Alright bang. Baru counter buy 60 kan, 59 counter buy. Sebab dah confirm break dah ni. Saya nak transfer dah bang. Tidak nak tamak. Dah overtrade dah hari ni sebenarnya. Jangan tamak-tamak bang, nanti rugi. Copy trade pun dah sedap dah. Copy trade pun dah cover dah semua loss. Copy trade kita. Kita tengok copy trade kita. Copy trade apa namanya? Copy trade duit raya. Junam 147. InsyaAllah. Saya tengah sell ni. Okay, dapat 60 pun dah sedap lah. Nanti kita counter buy balik. Sebab index dollar dah ada momentum lah. Dah ada rejection. Dah start ada rejection untuk ambil TP. Sekejap. Tu. Start running lah. Okay, saya guna $100 je. Saya silap transfer tadi. Dan sekarang modal jadi 141. Saya entry 1 sen je bang. Kita entry 1 sen je. Tapi kita tak tunjuk lah akaun yang sebenar kan. Yang kita entry tengah laya-laya. Tak bagus. Entry macam ni kan. Saya tengah sell. Sini pun saya sell ni. Kena juga. Tu. Ni sedap lah. Swing. Saya tekan 555. Salam abang Maman, lama tidak masuk live abang. Saya dengar abang sakit belakang, semoga sihat. Itulah saya tengah sakit ni bang. Betul-betul sakit. Tu tak boleh duduk macam biasa. Sebab saya takut jadi macam artis kita tu. Siapa namanya tu? Zamani. Kes samalah. Sama macam saya, cumanya ini tanda-tanda lah, salah satu tanda. Seram lot 55. Itulah apa, pedih nampak akaun besar, alhamdulillah. Tapi benda tu, akaun-akaun besar ni kita tak boleh tunjuk bang, tak bagus. Sebab kita tahu yang saya buat live ni kebanyakan retail trader. So kita bila kita buat live ni, kita tunjuk cara live trade akaun kecil. Barulah kita pay kan, ataupun apa tu, adil. Baru adil. Dan saya track akaun kecil, yang tengok pun track akaun kecil, so boleh ikut follow, copy sama-sama kan. Sakit bang, saya baru scan tadi. Saya terduduk 2 jam lebih, saya duduk di tepi jalan tadi. Nampak tak tulang saya tu? Tulang saya tu bengkok belah-belah sini ni. Dia bengkok. Kopi dulu boleh? Tu lah. Sakit gila. Ini tak boleh duduk tenang ni. Tak boleh duduk lama. Alah, tadi tak ambil lah bang. Tadi dah running $20. Okey lah kan. Akaun $120 okey sangat. Ada lagi yang masih hold sell tak? Ke dah ambil TP dah? Kalau dah ambil TP mantap lah. Tadi first kita entry, saya cut terus. Saya cut $7 terbuat ni. Cut. Hold keras. Saya pun trade dalam watt ni Baman. Batu Karang. Allahu Akbar. Okey, kita doakan kita punya abang Z kita Empire. Okey, semoga dia cepat sembuh lah. Biasalah bang, pengampunan dosa kan. Banyak orang sembuh dengan iman. Orang Kelantan tu lah. Ada Kelantan, ada Johor. Tadi saya ada post kat ni kan, platform FB kan. Terima kasih bang. Terbaik. Kena 65 je terus. Flip 200. Uish, 250% akaun. Wih, banyak tu bang profit. $250. $250 dari $100. Mantap kali bang. Saya masih dalam floating lagi. Ada masa 9 minit lagi. Kita tengok 9 minit dalam masa 2.5 tu dia cakap apa. Okay, 2.5 tu dia cakap apa nanti. Macam saya tak nak risikokan akaun saya terlalu besar. Cukuplah $100, $200 kan, $150. Bawah $200 lah. So kalau terciduk pun tak adalah bucu katil terus. Selamat bersahur bang. Minta diri dulu, silakan bang. Waalaikumsalam. Okey, waalaikumsalam. Saya tak sakit abang. Okey, siapa yang follow kopi duit Kopi trade duit raya, okey. Make sure korang PM saya punya admin, okey. PM saya punya admin untuk share korang punya alamat. Saya nak kirim baju korang minggu depan insya-Allah. Baju ni lah. Saya akan kirim. Saya akan post. Bang, saya tidak boleh login apa tu website apa tak boleh login. Kejap saya yes. Tak boleh. Ini mesti ramai sangat yang tengah login ni. Time FOMC ni banyak sangat yang tengah login website. Kejap saya update dulu dalam channel. Dalam ni. Saya tanya dulu dalam support. Robot-robot dah tidak jalan ke bang? Jalan bang. Baru-baru ni MC saya. Sebab floating goal tu apa namanya tu? Robot tu bertahan 1000 pip saja, tapi goal pergi dekat 200 pip. Itu yang kena tu. Nanti kita coding balik. Saya coding balik. Saya tengah coding ni untuk dia auto cut. Bila floating yang contoh kita letak 30%, dia akan auto cut. Hari tu saya tak sempat nak coding kan, terus running. Robot-robot insya-Allah saya akan ni setakat ni bulan ni saya akan fokus untuk copy trade raya dulu. Copy trade raya sekarang kalau ikutkan siapa dari awal follow memang dah lebih 100% lah. Siapa yang dari awal. Saya boleh login Saya boleh login lah bang. Siapa yang tak boleh login tu? Boleh je saya login. Robot, apa nama robot tu bang? Goal killer bang. Ini saya punya copy trade raya. Copy trade raya minimum 250, tapi nak dapatkan baju, nak dapatkan gift, lucky draw kena 500 lah. Funds terkumpul 11,000. 13,000%. Okey, target kita sebulan bulan puasa ni 2,000 ke 7,000 ringgit lah target kita. Ini win rate. Ini hari tu Isnin cut loss. So dah cover balik. Drawdown tinggi sikit lah sebab ini manual kan. Manual. Adalah tak banyak, 22 orang saja yang follow. Ini hari tu robot saya bang. Robot saya ini kena pada gold fly tu starting dari 2021. Cantik je graf kan. Last kena gol pacak kau kapuk. Kena di sini habis. Cantiklah graf kan. Graf sampai tu, dari 2021 sampai 2024 baru terciduk. Tak sangka pula gol boleh sejahat itu kan. Saya tidak dapat. Saya login okey je. Ke abang guna apa tu? Amirul guna rasa Amirul tengok linkmu betul tak? Link international ke ataupun lama punya Amirul? Valetax ada rebate ke tak? Untuk di sini bang, rebate paling besar bang antara semua broker. Spread biasa. Kita bagi $9 per lot. Auto rebate. $9 per lot. Kita ada bagi rebate Abang Z Empire kita. Lama lah. Abang sekarang trade mana? Masih di STFX ke? Ada masa 4 minit lagi dia berucap. Tadi kita tak close. Biar. Cek balik Amirul, boleh login ke belum? Saya login okey je. Floating balik 11. Tapi saya tak nak layer lah. STFS bukan dah. Dia tidak ambil Malaysia ke bang? Ya betul. Hari tu dapat email so withdraw. Abang di Singapura kan? Abang Z Empire Singapura kan? Tak silap lah. Floating 2-3 hari spread naik ke bang? Tak, spread mana naik? Kami spread tak naik bang. Kalau ada naik tu bagi tahu saya. Saya tolong tembak broker. Biasanya tak naik apa pun. Yang turun naik tu leverage. Semakin besar kita punya equity, semakin kurang lah kita punya leverage. Penang. Lupa lah bang. Empire. Aku kenal lah ni. Lambat betul lah gol ni. Nak terjun-terjun lah. Ini dia naik balik bang. Floating lah $20 kan. Nak buka puasa esok. Lepas saya rasa saya nak buka puasa bersama sama-sama trader lah. Ada tak yang nak di area Selangor ke area KL? Kita buka sama-sama ramai-ramai. 2 minit lagi lah. 2 minit lagi lah. Tunggulah dia berucap. Time dia berucap tu dia akan ada cakap lah apa pasal ekonomi. Korang dengar lah. Saya okey sudah bang, syukur. Boleh pun. Fikir tak boleh login. Biasanya mana-mana broker bila terlalu ramai yang tengah login di website tu akan sedikit hang. Itu biasa bang. Bang tak datang KK ke untuk berbuka sini? Tu saya ingat setiap tahun kan dapat datang KK berbuka. Kali tahun ni agak sibuk lah. Tahun ni agak sibuk. Amirul nanti bagi ni alamat abang nak kirim baju. Baju ni untuk Amirul. Satu. Abang dah receive lah SSM kan? Untuk Amirul. Ni ada stok ni. Baru ambil ni. Ada lebih kurang 50 helai je lah frame sebab ini limited. Nanti bagi abang ni. Okey. Bagi abang ni alamat Amirul. Saya setiap tahun ikut abang berbuka di KK, betul. Kejap lagi saya WhatsApp abang. Mantap. Hai, gol ni apply balik. Okey. Okey, kita dengar kita fokus apa dia cakap. Dia masuk je terus goal fly. Belum masuk lagi dia dah fly dah. Kita fokus apa dia cakap. Masuklah cepat orang tua. Saya masih sell lagi Sell lagi ke? Saya masih sell lagi. Dapat turun 50, 150 cantik dah. Okey, 150 kalau dia turun saya 200%. Saya masih sell. Siapa nak entry silakan. Tapi make sure kena letak SL lah kali ni. Tadi before news tu kita tak letak SL. So kita guna sistem cut loss. Dia datang dah.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon dorang afternoon.
Squarely focused on our dual mandate to promote maximum employment and stable prices for the American people. The economy has made considerable progress toward our dual mandate objectives. Inflation has eased substantially while the labor market has remained strong. And that is very good news. But inflation is still too high. Ongoing progress in bringing it down is not assured. And the path forward is
Inflation masih tinggi
we are
geng.
fully committed to returning inflation to our 2% goal. Restoring price stability is essential to achieve a sustainably strong labor market that benefits all.
Siapa re-entry sell dah running tu.
Decided to leave our policy interest rate unchanged and to continue to reduce our securities holdings. Our restrictive stance of monetary policy has been putting downward pressure on economic activity.
Sell bang, saya tengah sell.
As labor market tightness has eased,
Kita fokus dulu apa dia cakap. Saya nak dengar apa dia cakap. Man, dia tak nak umum raya bila.
inflation goals are moving into better balance.
Saya nak fokus dulu apa dia cakap
I will
geng.
have more to say about monetary policy after briefly reviewing economic developments. Recent indicators suggest that economic activity has been expanding at a solid pace. GDP growth in the fourth quarter of last year came in at 3.2%. For 2023 as a whole, GDP expanded 3.1%, bolstered by strong consumer demand as well as improving supply conditions. Activity in the housing sector was subdued over the past year, largely reflecting high mortgage rates. High interest rates also appear to have weighed on business fixed investment. In our summary of economic projections, committee participants generally expect GDP growth to slow from last year's pace, with a median projection of 2.1% this year and 2% over the next 2 years. Participants generally revised up their growth projections since December, reflecting the strength of incoming data, including data on labor supply. The labor market remains relatively tight, but supply and demand conditions continue to come into better balance. Over the past 3 months, payroll job gains averaged 265,000 jobs per month. The unemployment rate has edged up but remains low at 3.9%. Strong job creation has been accompanied by an increase in the supply of workers, reflecting increases in participation among individuals aged 25 to 54 years and a continued strong pace of immigration. Nominal wage growth has been easing and job vacancies have declined. Although the jobs to workers gap has narrowed, labor demand still exceeds the supply of available workers. FOMC participants expect the rebalancing in the labor market to continue, easing upward pressure on inflation. The median unemployment rate projection in the SEP is 4.0% at the end of this year and 4.1% at the end of next year. Inflation has eased notably over the past year, but remains above our longer-run goal of 2%. Estimates based on the Consumer Price Index and other data indicate that total PCE prices rose 2.5% over the 12 months.
Ambil dulu silakan
And that
Siapa nak ambil dulu
excluding all
silakan.
food and energy categories, core PCE prices rose 2.8%. Longer-term inflation expectations appear to remain well anchored, as reflected in a broad range of surveys of households, businesses, and forecasters, as well as from measures from financial markets. The median projection in the SEP for total PCE inflation falls to 2.4% this year, 2.2% next year, and 2% in 2026. The Fed's monetary policy actions are guided by our mandate to promote maximum employment and stable prices for the American people. My colleagues and I are acutely aware that high inflation imposes significant hardship as it erodes purchasing power, especially for those least able to meet the higher costs of essentials like food, housing, and transportation. We are strongly committed to returning inflation to our 2% objective. The committee decided at today's meeting to maintain the target range for the federal funds rate at 5.25%
Okay, saya dah running profit. Saya nak
and to
ambil
continue
dulu.
the process of significantly reducing our securities holdings. As labor market tightness
Saya ambil
has
dulu ya,
eased
geng.
and progress on inflation has continued, the risks to achieving our employment and inflation goals are coming
Dia,
into better
dia punya
balance.
cara cakap tu
We believe that our policy rate is
50-50.
likely at its peak for this tightening cycle,
siapa nak ni
and
dulu.
that if the economy evolves broadly as expected, it will likely be appropriate to
Saya ambil
begin
dulu,
dialing back
okay.
policy restraint at some
Cukup
point
$30
this year. The economic outlook is uncertain, however, and we remain highly attentive to inflation risks.
Silap saya tak tinggalkan satu entry.
We are prepared to maintain the current
Standby untuk
rate for the federal funds rate
entry
for
seterusnya.
longer
Kita entry
if
seterusnya.
appropriate.
Kaya-kaya Uzaipah.
We know that reducing
Tengah sakit
policy
ni bang.
restraint too soon or
Abang
too
bagi
much
singa ke
could
kan.
result
Baru
in
ada
a
cerita.
reversal of the progress we have seen on
Tengah sakit
inflation,
pinggang ni kan.
ultimately require even tighter policy to get inflation back to 2%.
Wah, tolonglah di mana nak
At
urut.
the same time, reducing policy
Buat datanglah
restraint
KL lah.
too
Tak
late
larat
or too
nak
little
nak
could
datang sana
ultimately
ni.
weaken economic activity and employment.
Bagilah
Considering
singa
the
kan.
adjustments to the target range for the federal funds rate, the committee will
Saya dah ambil
closely
sel tadi
assess
ya.
incoming data,
Saya dah ambil sel
and the balance of
adalah
risks.
berapa pip.
The committee does not expect it to
70
be
pip.
appropriate to reduce the target range until
Maman
it's
macam
been
mana
clearly
berapa persen?
confidence that
Saya
inflation
dapat
is moving
50% je bang.
sustainably down toward 2%.
Kejap lagi saya akan entry balik.
Of course, we're committed to both
Tunggu dia
sides of
berucap
our dual
dulu.
mandate, and an
Tunggu habis berucap.
unexpected weakening in the labor market could also warrant a policy response. We will continue to make our decisions meeting by meeting. In our SEP, FOMC participants wrote down their individual assessments of an appropriate path for the federal funds rate based on what each participant judges to be the most likely scenario going forward. If the economy evolves as projected, the median participant projects that the appropriate level of the federal funds rate will be 4.6% at the end of this year, 3.9%.
Ada lagi masih wholesale tak? Saya dah ambil dulu, nanti entry balik.
2026, still above the median longer term funds rate.
Sebab news dia punya apa yang saya faham lah, ekonomi dia 50-50 ni. Dengan inflation ataupun ni masih tinggi lagi.
And price stability goals.
Makan atas bawah, mantap kali.
Securities holdings have declined by nearly $1.5 trillion since the
Jangan tamak, biar sikit, lama-lama jadi bukit. Saya dah collect tadi 63, mantap.
Related to slowing the pace of decline in our securities holdings. While we did not make any decisions today on this, the general sense of the committee is that it will be appropriate to slow the pace of runoff fairly soon, consistent with the plans we previously issued. The decision to slow the pace of runoff does not mean that our balance sheet will ultimately shrink by less than it would otherwise.
Thank
but
you,
rather allows
boss.
us to approach that ultimate
Hasilnya
level
bang, masih
more
bercakap
gradually.
ni.
In particular, slowing the pace of runoff will help ensure a smooth transition, reducing the possibility that money markets experience stress, and thereby facilitating the ongoing decline in our securities holdings.
Aduh, naik
consistent
apa
with
turun?
reaching
Tadi
the
kami sell,
appropriate
bang.
level of ample reserves.
Tadi kami sell gold, kami dah ambil dah.
Committed to bringing inflation back down to our 2% goal. And to
Naik
keep
balik,
our
gold ni tengah naik ni.
inflation
Index
expectations
dollar menurun
well
pula.
anchored. Restoring price stability is essential to set the stage for achieving maximum
Kita tunggu
employment
75 pula baru kita masuk.
over the long term.
Harga 75 baru kita masuk.
To conclude, we understand that our actions affect
2175.
families and businesses across the country.
Kekalkan, rate tetap kekal bang. Mungkin dalam bulan berapa tah? 2 bulan, 3 bulan lagi akan perubahan suku bunga nanti.
Stability goals. Thank you.
Okey, tem berucap ni soalan dia.
Steve Leisman, CNBC. Mr. Chairman, the projections show somewhat higher core inflation. They also
Jadi
show,
naik apa
somewhat
turun suku
stronger
bunga
growth.
kekal. Suku bunga kekal.
What should we infer from this notion that on average rates were kept the same this year,
5.5%.
but inflation is higher and growth is higher? Does it mean more tolerance for higher inflation and less of a willingness to slow the economy to achieve the target?
Well, it doesn't. No, it doesn't mean that. What it means is that we've seen incoming as I pointed out in my opening remarks. We did mark up our growth forecast, and so have many other forecasters. So the economy is performing well, and the inflation data came in a little bit higher as a separate matter, and I think that caused people to write up their inflation. But nonetheless, we continue to make good progress on bringing inflation down, and so.
When you just to follow up, when you say that you're willing to either maintain the rate for longer, what is the tolerance of the Federal Reserve for inflation coming in above its 2% target?
We're strongly committed to bringing inflation down to 2% over time. That is our goal.
2177 boleh set limit.
We will achieve
Saya
that
tunggu
goal.
75 ni.
Because
Jap,
that's
jap,
what will happen
75
over time.
sampai
But we stress
80.
over time. And so I think we're making projections that do show that happening, and we're committed to that outcome, and we will bring it about.
Hi, Chair Powell, Rachel Siegel from the Washington Post. Thanks for taking our questions. You and others have been saying that relief on housing inflation is coming, but it still hasn't shown up meaningfully
Sahur.
in the CPI or the
Minum
PCE.
kopi ya bang.
Does that challenge your assumption about when the shift will finally break through?
Awal lagi sahur. Sabah Sarawak boleh lah sahur sekarang.
So I think there's some confidence that the market rents, lower market rent increases that we're seeing will show up in measures of housing services inflation.
Saya sakit sangat pinggang.
There's a little bit of uncertainty about when that will happen, but there's real confidence that they will show up eventually.
75 boleh set limit.
Uncertainty
75.
about the exact time.
75 sehingga
And will you be able to
80.
get overall inflation down to target if housing doesn't break through
tadi
quickly?
sampai
Does that affect
75.
the timing for eventual cuts this year?
We will get aggregate inflation down to 2% over time. We will. And I would assume that what we'll continue to see is we'll see goods prices coming into a new equilibrium where they're going down perhaps not as quickly as they had been earlier this year, where housing services inflation will come back down as as current market rents are
SL
suggesting,
tengah market masih laju.
Your non-housing
Tengok yes,
services
masih
will
laju
move
lagi.
back down. Some
Relax dulu.
combination of those three things, and it may be different.
SL
in the
letak
combination we
50
had
pip 30
before
pip
the
saja bang.
pandemic. We'll be
Maksimum
achieving
50 pip lah.
inflation back down to 2% sustainable.
Saya tak entry lagi ni. Tadi dah ambil sell, kita tunggu lagi untuk second round.
Nick Timrose of the Wall Street Journal. Chair Powell, during your congressional testimony this month, you said that your test for making
saya
the
tak
first
entry lagi again.
change to interest rates does not require you to be terribly comfortable that inflation is at 2% because interest rates are well above neutral. At the same time, you said here after
saya
last
tak entry
meeting that
lagi.
the first cut is highly consequential.
Masih menunggu dalam
Can you
zone.
reconcile these views for me? If rates are well above neutral, why would the first cut be highly consequential? Is that because you anticipate one cut would be followed by one or two more along the lines of the recalibration you made in 2019, which itself was modeled on the mid-cycle adjustment of 1995?
It's more, I would put it more in the context of what I
Bang,
said.
Valetax minimum withdraw $1 pun boleh bang. Abang kalau nak withdraw, abang Azizi withdraw dengan LD.
You know, if we ease,
Sebab kita di Valetax minimum deposit $1, withdraw pun minimum $1. Kalau tak malulah. Kalau tak malulah.
and you know, people's working.
Depo tengok boleh withdraw lagi ke?
We do see the risks as two-sided, so it is consequential. We want to be careful. Unfortunately, with the economy growing, with the labor market
Withdraw di LD $1 pun boleh. MC geng,
approach
awal
that
sangat
question
MC tu
carefully
bang.
and let the
Kita dah
data
ambil dah. Touch and go boleh withdraw LD. Oh tak boleh, kena LD juga. Valetax ada account send, ada. Okay, kita ada di Valetax ni kita ada account send, kita akan ada account ECN, kita ada account standard.
Last year.
So I want to start by saying I always try to be careful about dismissing data that we don't like. So you need to check yourself on that, and I'll do that. But I would say the January number, which was very high, the January CPI and PCE numbers were quite high. There's reason to think that there could be seasonal effects there. But nonetheless, we don't want to be completely dismissive of it. The February number was higher than expectations, but we have it at currently well below 30 basis points core PCE, which is not terribly high. So it's not like the January number. But I take the two of them together, and I think they haven't really changed the overall story, which is that of inflation moving down gradually on a
Bila nak lepak ni Ash?
toward 2%.
Lepak dengan Ahman.
Story has changed.
Lama kita tak lepak ni.
I also
Ke dah
don't
kerja
think
kat
that
PD?
those readings
Hari
added
tu
to anyone's confidence that we're
last
moving
aku
closer
jumpa
to-
masa wife kau mengandung tak silap.
But, you know, we didn't. Last thing I'll say,
Masa
we
di
didn't
sambal hijau
excessively celebrate the good inflation readings we got in the
Masih
last
kerja di
7 months
Maybank
of last year. We didn't take too much signal out of that.
Tak
What we were
lepas.
saying was
Bang, zone berapa? Ni saya masih menunggu ni. Sekarang ni 777 ni.
we want to be careful about that decision.
Sekarang ni
We're not gonna
77. Siapa
overreact
WhatsApp saya
to
subuh-subuh ni?
these 2 months of data, nor are we going to ignore them.
Saya tak entry lagi ni. Yalah, saya tak entry lagi. Saya tunggu dia ni. Takut dia pecah.
Is there
Sabar sikit.
enough data between now and say May to be able to get the kind of confidence that you say that you still need, or by June, is there enough data for you? Just give us a sense of your thinking there. Thank you.
Yeah, so we make decisions meeting by meeting, and we didn't make any decisions about future meetings today. Those are going to depend on our ongoing assessment of the incoming data, the evolving outlook, and the balance of risk. So I really don't have anything for you on any specific meeting looking forward.
Sell or buy? Belum lagi ni. Tadi kami sell. Dah ambil dah 50%.
We'll take.
Nak sell balik ni.
Things can happen during an intermeeting period.
73 sampai 80. 77 sampai 80 ni. Tapi masih berucap kan. Layan dulu lah.
I just would say that the committee wants
Saya dah
to see
WhatsApp pasal slip dash. Yes. Terima kasih bang. Nanti saya balas.
that gives us higher confidence that inflation is moving down sustainably toward.
Abang duduk mana bang?
Also mentioned, and we don't see
Abang
this
duduk mana?
in the data right now, but if there were a significant weakening in the data,
Saya tak larat nak drive.
that
Susah
could
lah.
also be a reason for us to begin the process of
Sebab saya
resetting.
duduk lama kan.
There's nothing in the data.
Ini pun tengah live ni baring-baring.
Things that we'll be looking at coming meetings, and without trying to refer to any specific meeting.
Baik Mirul.
Hi, Chris Reaver, Associated Press. Thank you.
in the projections, there is an increase in the neutral rate, as you know.
Kejap lagi saya entry, korang ni lah
A
masuk.
quarter point higher rate projected in 2025, 2026.
Selangor dekat
Can you
ya.
speak about
Tadi saya
why
menghala ke
might be behind that? Is there a real sense
menghala
there
ke
that the economy is
apa
expected to
Kelang
change in
tadi.
some way that,
Saya krem di
higher rates
kereta
will be
tadi.
needed in the future?
Ini pinggang ni sakit sangat. Saya pergi di pusat rawatan tu yang saraf tu, dia kata dia pun takut nak tarik sangat, takut jadi makin teruk. So saya dihantar pergi klinik untuk scan. Bila scan orang kata ada tulang tu ada bergerak sikit. Sekarang awak duduk, saya dah masara je bang.
We think that rates were generally low during the pre-pandemic, post-global financial crisis era for reasons that are mostly,
Sel ke belum entry lagi, second entry belum lagi bang.
slow moving.
Saya belum entry lagi.
Like demographics and productivity.
Ni sesi soal jawab ni bahaya juga.
Move quickly. But I don't think we know. I mean, my instinct would be that rates will not go back down to the very low levels that we saw, where all around the world there were long run rates that were at or below zero. In some
sakit
cases,
pinggang.
I don't see rates
Sakit
going
sangat,
back
bang.
down to that level, but I think there's tremendous uncertainty.
Aduh, tak boleh depo.
And just a
Tak boleh
quick
depo.
follow on the
Broker mana tu bang?
projections, you also have 2.6%
Okay je.
core inflation for the end of this year. It's already at, or you mentioned it being 2.8 in February. I mean, that doesn't sound
Abang
like
Al-Hishani,
disinflation at all.
Isami.
So are you really,
Esok bang,
are you still
esok
confident?
kalau abang free insyaAllah saya kalau boleh pergi sana saya pergi. Abang share siap-siap location bang.
Get more confidence till the end of this year.
Bank offline. Offline.
Is it right to
Kalau
say
broker
that this
kami
suggests
Tashengo
you're
ada
not
bang.
seeing a lot of disinflation this year compared to what we've
Okay,
seen?
jom entry satu ni. Saya hantar satu askar dulu.
Higher year-end,
Okay, TP 60
reflects the data we've seen so far this year, because you're now in this year.
Stop out Econ standard berapa? 70 bang. 70-30.
Sorry, say your last part of your question again.
Are you still optimistic that we'll get the confidence you need this year?
Make sure siapa yang trade di broker kami, di broker Valetax, make sure korang claim bonus
It is still
at least bonus boleh support margin dan floating. Sell ke bang? Saya tengah sell.
will achieve that confidence and that there will be rate cuts. But that's really going to depend on the incoming data. It is. The other thing is, in the second half of the year, you have some pretty low readings.
Ini
So
second
in
entry
order to make progress as you move that 12-month
third
window
entry.
forward.
First entry tadi kita cut
We're
loss.
looking for data that
Second
confirms
kita
the
cover
low readings that
50%.
we had last year.
50% lah kita profit. And then sekarang ni kita entry sell
What we
lagi.
saw was really
Saya entry sell.
inflation moving sustainably down to 2%.
Now I entry sell gold now.
Toward 2%.
Gina Smilik, The New York Times. Thank you for taking our questions. Per your comment to Anne that a weakening in the labor market would be a reason to potentially cut rates, or at least a consideration in making a rate cut, would continued strength in the labor market
Bonus
be
kalau
a
withdraw
reason
burn
for
ke bang?
outperformance? And just
Burn
in
lah.
general, if labor supply continued to rebound in
Hilang.
2024,
Withdraw je internal transfer je dah hilang.
what would stronger hiring and possibly stronger growth mean for the path forward on policy?
Yeah, so if what we're getting is
What is
a lot of supply and
computer?
a lot of
Computer
demand,
what?
and that supply is actually feeding demand because workers are getting
Computer
paid
apa?
and they're
Ini saya punya
spending, and that's what you would have is potentially kind of what you had last year, which is a bigger economy where inflationary pressures are not increasing. In fact, they were decreasing. So you can have that if you have a
Bro,
continued
can
supply
I
side
see your
activity
entry?
that we had last year with
Wait.
both with supply chains and also with growth.
They
in
cannot
some
show
wages.
because
So
later
strong
TikTok
hiring in and
ban.
of itself would not be a reason to
Just
hold off on
show
rate cuts.
like this
No, not all by itself. No, I mean we saw.
Saya nak
we saw
withdraw
last
guna
year
touch and go.
very
Dia
strong
Econ
hiring
Bank
and
tengok
inflation coming
mana
down
bang.
quickly. We now have a better sense that a big part of that was
Oh, dia nak
supply
Econ
side growth,
number nak
particularly
tengok
with,
mana.
with growth in the labor force. So in and of itself,
Baru entry.
strong job growth is not a reason, for us to be concerned about inflation.
Hi, Chair Powell. Neil Irwin with Axios. How do you assess the state of financial conditions right now, and particularly,
Tashengo. Saya tak
do you
pernah try
view
Tashengo
the kind of
tapi
easing financial conditions since the fall is consistent and compatible with what you're trying to achieve on the
Sekejap, saya
inflation?
tengok dulu.
So
Tashengo.
we think there are many different financial conditions indicators, and you can kind of see different answers to that question, but ultimately we do think that financial conditions are weighing
Di
on
profile bang, di
economic activity,
profile.
and I think you see
Abang
that
tekan profile abang, dia ada
great place to see
nombor
this in
tu.
the labor market where you've seen
Nampak?
demand
Dia ada nombor di
cooling off
situ.
a little bit from the extremely high levels, and there I would point to job openings, quits, surveys,
SL kat mana? Kalau 78 sekarang, ambil lah 30 pip, 40 pip. Sebab saya, last zone saya 80 bang. 80. 80 bermaksud saya ambil 83, 83 ataupun 85. Maksimum 85.
Financial conditions sometimes being tighter, sometimes looser.
Michael McGee with Bloomberg Radio and Television. Can you give us more color on how the committee is thinking about inflation dynamics now? What we've seen at the beginning of the year, are they more one-off increases that will fade, or is there more of a secular turn with goods prices rising again and service prices staying sticky? And also,
Ingat
housing
Badrul
prices
tadi,
have been sort of
Badrul tu
below
kembar saya
this,
bang.
cycle in that you keep expecting them to go down and they don't. How does the committee see this playing out forward since you've raised your inflation forecast?
So I see the committees looking at the 2 months of data and asking the same question you're asking and saying we're just going to have to see what the data show. As I mentioned,
AUD/USD
you can
pun
look at
saya sell.
January, which is very high reading, and you can, and I think many people did see the possibility of seasonal adjustment problems there. But again, you got to be careful about dismissing the parts of the data that you don't like. So then February wasn't as high, but it was higher. So the question is, what are we going to see? We tend to see
Last zone 80 again.
this is in the data.
So kita risikokan dalam 30 pip 85 lah.
We're going to
85 kita risiko kita.
Show. I don't
So
think
kita
we
entry
really
slow
know whether
saja.
this is a bump on the road or something more. We'll have to find out. In the meantime, the economy is strong, the labor market is strong.
Oh, saya tak larat lah bang.
Inflation has come way
Saya
down,
sakit pinggang.
and that gives us the ability to
Saya tunjuk
approach
entry
this
saya,
question carefully.
Sebab muka pun tak seberapa nak
feel
handsome.
more confident that inflation is moving down sustainably at 2% when we take that
Saya nak
step
baring-baring
to
sambil live.
back, our restricted
Sakit
policy.
sangat pinggang.
So you talked about the desire to have confidence that inflation is continually moving down. Has the recent numbers we've gotten for inflation data dented that confidence at all?
It certainly hasn't improved our confidence. It hasn't raised anyone's confidence, but I would say that
Itulah, banyak minum. Tapi saya kena kopi je terus
is
bang.
really essentially the same.
Kopi,
And that is,
kalau tak ada kopi saya rasa
gradually toward 2%.
nak gila, nak gila.
As I mentioned, I think that's what you still see.
Kopi
We've
Nescafe
got
kan?
9 months of 2.5% inflation now. And we've had 2 months of kind of bumpy inflation. We were saying that it's going to be a bumpy
Okay,
ride.
81
We consistently said that.
So siapa nak letak SL silakan. Sebab sekarang situasinya momentum indeks dolar sangat kuat. Terjun.
It is very important
Sangat kuat.
for everyone that we serve that we do get inflation sustainably down.
Bang, SL, abang pakai SL ke?
Situation is different, but
Saya guna cut loss saja bang. Sebab saya tengah di depan cat ni.
carefully and try to get it right the first time and not have to come
Kecuali
back.
korang nak tidur ke apa ke, letaklah SL siap-siap. Macam saya depan chat, so saya boleh cut bila-bila je. Saya tarik skrip satu kali klik, tutup je semua. Sell or buy now, kami sell bang, baru sell. Tengok floating. Ini 1 sen je saya entry ya. What is SL? 2185 bro.
That it may remain too high
2185.
for too long has halted advances in deploying renewable energy technologies and delayed significant climate and economic benefits from these projects. So has higher interest rates caused that?
Benar, momentum news SL bisa kena spike, betul.
First of all, I respect
Sekejap saja. Kalau momentum tengah news ni memang sekejap saja. So gunalah strategic cut loss.
Place a tremendous amount of importance on our engagements with Congress and always treat them with great respect. In this case,
Okay, untuk Sabah Sarawak,
our mandate
selamat bersahur.
and price stability and the other things that we do, and that's what we're trying to accomplish. We're trying to do that in a way that sustains the strong growth we're seeing, the strong labor market we're seeing, but allows us to make further progress with inflation. That's how we can best serve the public and leave the other issues, which in many cases are incredibly important, such as those you mentioned, leave those to the people who have responsibility for those.
There's another letter from 2 dozen lawmakers saying that the higher rates are squeezing the working people. How do these letters affect what you guys are doing policy-wise?
We receive these letters with respect, and we write careful responses and address concerns. We listen.
Are you buy or sell? Now we sell, bro.
The people who in our system of government have oversight over our activity.
Sell.
So that's, but at the end of the
Now
day,
I sell.
we take that on board, but we have to make our judgments, and we have to stick to our knitting, which is maximum employment, price stability, supervise and regulate the banks, work on the payment system, the things that we do.
Copy trade follow news tidak man? Copy trade tak? Tak ada entry. Dah settle dah tadi. $50.
Jones, Financial Times. Thanks a lot for the opportunity to ask a question. As chair of the FOMC,
Oh, index dollar masih
would
weak
you
ah.
want to
Masih
see
terjun kau-kau.
unanimity on the committee
Bahaya ni.
or something
Okey, nak
close to
letak
it,
SL silakan, tak nak letak pun tak ada masalah. Okey, yang penting kalau sampai level ni 85 cut loss saja.
We're a very consensus-oriented organization, and we do try to achieve consensus and ideally unanimity. People do dissent. It's something that happens. Life goes on.
Oh, sakit sangat bang pinggang.
It's not a problem. We've always had dissents. And so you respect thoughtful dissents very much. It's like you may not agree with some arguments, but you really want to understand them. So you may read a book that takes a position that you have long opposed just to understand that book. So I treat dissents with real respect as well.
Simon Rabinovich with The Economist. Can you
Yes.
Okay, great. Obviously, inflation is some ways away from target. Unemployment, though, if you look at the projection for the full year, 4.0%. In February, we were already at 3.9%, so quite close to the median projection. Are you concerned at all that, notwithstanding the very strong jobs growth, that in fact there may be some cracks appearing in the employment market? You talked about a significant
sebatang lemang pula.
being a condition for
Masih
easing
strong ni
rates. What would constitute that in your books?
Batang bay.
So we, of course, monitor it's one of our two goal variables. We all monitor the labor market very, very carefully, and I don't see those cracks today. And we follow all the possible stories
Oh, sakitnya
that are out
pinggang.
there about there being cracks. But the overall picture really is strong labor market. The extreme imbalances that we saw in the early parts of the pandemic recovery have mostly been resolved. You're seeing high job growth. You're seeing big increases in supply. You're seeing strong wage growth, but wage growth is gradually moderating down to more sustainable levels. In many, many respects, things are returning more to their state in 2019, which we can think of as normal for this purpose. That's job openings, quits, and surveys of workers and businesses are always interesting on this. How easy is it to find a job? How easy it is to find a worker? Those surveys have both come down. So the labor market's in good shape. You do see things like the low hiring rate, and people have made the argument that if layoffs were to increase, that would mean that the net would be fairly quick increases in unemployment. So that's something we're watching, but we're not seeing it. Of course, initial claims are very, very low, and if anything, have tracked down a little bit. So watching it carefully, don't see it. And when I say something, I use the term unexpected.
Sell or buy, now we sell, bro.
We do expect the unemployment rate
Sell.
the forecast is that it would move up, I think, closer
Letak
to
SL lah.
the long-run
Siapa-siapa
sustainable
takut.
level.
Okey, sekarang
That's just
harga 80 letak lah 85 kan.
Forecast. But we're talking about something that's unexpected. That's where I'll leave it though.
Memang lama dia soal jawab. Memang dia kalau banyak soal macam tu lah.
Steve Matthews with Bloomberg. You mentioned at the beginning of the press conference that the committee felt it might be appropriate to slow the pace of asset runoff fairly soon. I'm wondering, is when you say fairly soon, does that mean that the committee would meet about this again in May and a decision could
siapa
be
nak tengok
soon? And
live entry
just
boleh
wondering
masuk
if you
dalam
could
channel
also
lah.
just describe the
Dalam channel saya ada
scope
tunjuk
of
live
what
entry
the
saya.
committee is discussing.
Full screen.
You're at $95 billion of caps right now. Would that be cut about in half or something in that nature? Thank you.
So that is what we're discussing essentially is.
Thank you bang, cukup $50. Alhamdulillah. $50 pun gaji sehari tau.
In due course, but
Banyak
what
dah
we're
tu.
looking at is slowing the pace of runoff. There isn't much runoff among MBS right now, but there is in treasuries, and we're talking about going to a lower pace. I don't want to give you a specific number because we haven't had an agreement or a decision, but that's the idea, that's what we're looking at. And in terms of the timing, I said fairly soon. I wouldn't want to try to be more specific than that, but you get the idea. The idea is, and this is in our longer run plans, that we may actually be able to get to a lower level because we would avoid the kind of frictions that can happen. Liquidity is not evenly distributed.
Sedut
in the
man,
system.
supaya dah turun. Tu
There can
nak
be
sedut
times
ni.
when
Sedut
in
ni bang.
aggregate reserves are ample or even abundant, but not in every part. And those parts where they're not ample, there can be stress. And that can cause you to prematurely stop the process to avoid the stress. And then it would be very hard to restart, we think. So something like that happened in 19, perhaps. So that's what we're doing. We're looking at what would be a good time and what would be a good structure. And, fairly soon is words that we use to mean fairly soon.
And will there be a discussion about returning to an all treasuries balance sheet at some point?
So that our
Lama sangat dia berucap ni. Aku dah saya dah sakit pinggang sangat ni. Okey lagi.
A balance sheet that
Tak
is
larat.
mostly treasuries. I do expect that once we're through this, we'll.
Okey geng, saya betul-betul tak larat. Jadi saya baru balik dari hospital. Saya ada masalah sakit pinggang apa semua kan. Tulang lari. So saya tak boleh duduk lama. Okey, saya mohon maaf lah kalau tak boleh duduk lama. So sekarang saya tengah sel. Apa-apa pun saya ucapkan ribuan terima kasih yang join live malam ni. Tahniah kepada yang profit, yang loss, cuba lagi, jangan putus asa. Okey, apa-apa pun saya akan update dalam channel. Siapa yang belum masuk dalam channel, tekan link di bio. Okey, masuk dalam channel, kita ada copy trade raya, and then kita ada bonus apa semua macam-macam aktiviti lah. So live track kita ada education, kita ada macam-macam saya ajar. So terima kasih yang join. Saya mohon maaf sebab tak boleh duduk lama, saya sakit pinggang. Okay, saya gerak dulu geng. Selamat bersahur semua. Assalamualaikum. Bye bye. Oh sakit. Saya gerak dulu